I'm not really sure what kill gameplay means. At face value, that combination of words doesn't really make sense. How can you kill gameplay? Why would you want to kill gameplay? What did gameplay ever do to you? When I first heard the phrase kill gameplay, I kind of brushed it off as some sort of artsy-fartsy game dev lingo that sounds like gibberish. But then I played this game called The End of Gameplay. I received a free Steam key from the developer before it was released for beta testing and decided to give it a shot. Playing through it was an interesting experience. The graphics are very simple. The gameplay is mostly standard platforming. And the story, I don't even know if it has a story. There are a bunch of words though, poems sprinkled throughout the levels with words that don't necessarily say anything cohesive. But as I went through the levels, something sort of clicked. I think I get it now. The game was describing this very strange feeling, or at least like a cluster of feelings, that I've kind of felt for a while now, but I can't exactly put to words. This very vague concept that didn't really have a name, but now it does. Kill gameplay. Hello, it's me, your pal Owl. I wanted to do something a little different from my previous videos and wanted to talk about a game that someone else made instead of one that I made. Kind of like a game review. So, I'm part of this little group of indie devs called Paradise. I've been a part of it for a few years now, and it's where I've met and connected with a bunch of other cool devs who make some pretty cool stuff. There's a pretty decent number of people who are a part of it, some that you might have heard of before. There's Torcado, the creator of Window Kill, Stuffed Wombat, the creator of Moselina, Daniel Linson, the creator of Leap Year, and a few others. I'm not exactly sure how I would describe my relationship with the members of this community. I don't think I know them that well to call them friends, but we're definitely beyond acquaintances. I guess sort of like colleagues? I think virtual neighbors is probably more accurate. I don't know. Internet relationships are weird. One of the head honchos of Paradise is a game developer called droqen, who made a game called Starseed Pilgrim a while back and has made a few other smaller projects over the years. A few months ago, they released a game called The End of Gameplay on Steam, which seemed to be a project they were super passionate about. I played it before it came out as a beta tester like I mentioned earlier, and I'd recently decided to play it again, this time taking notes as I played through it, so I could jot down my thoughts and interpretations about what the heck is going on in this game. In this video, I'm going to go through the whole game and share what I wrote down. I'm also going to give my thoughts on the game overall, what others might be able to take away from it, and whether or not you should check it out. That being said, let's jump right into it. Before we begin, there's a few things I'd like to point out. The levels in this game vary greatly in terms of length. Some might last a few minutes and some only a few seconds, so each level won't get the equal amount of attention. I won't delve too deep into most of the text sprinkled throughout the game since a lot of them are various poems that I'm not smart enough to decipher with clarity, so I'll only mention the ones that I think are interesting or I believe are relevant to each level. Also, I'm basically going to be spoiling the entire game, so if you'd like to try it out for yourself, feel free to play it before watching this. The first level is the tutorial. This level is pretty simple, it tells you the controls and gives you like an overall objective to complete while you're playing the game. So this game actually has some pretty interesting jump mechanics. Basically you have a triple jump, but each jump is like a separate jump mode. The first one is like a standard like low gravity jump, and the second one is like a spinning one, and while you're spinning, if you touch like a wall, you actually like climb up the wall. And the third jump is like an upside down jump with very high gravity. There's a few points in the game where you actually have to use all three jump modes to get to certain areas, which I actually think is pretty cool. Also, another thing that I like to note, so while you're playing this game, every time there's like a screen transition effect, there's like this weird audio thing that happens. Like it sounds like the audio is like lagging behind where it goes like do 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 do. And I thought that was like a glitch or something, so I mentioned that to droqen, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's totally intentional. So it's a very interesting artistic decision. The next level is called Bunnies. It's a really simple level where you can jump around and collect coins, as well as practicing how to do the 3 different types of jumps that you can perform. The coins you collect in the levels and throughout the entire game don't actually contribute to anything. Like there's no coin counter and you don't get like a secret 1-up or whatever. but they are there if you're someone who likes collecting coins. And, I know I am. The next level is called Oubliettes. Wait, how do you pronounce it? Oubliettes. Oubliettes. Huh. Man, it's like those French guys have a whole nother language. This level, to my knowledge, only has one room that's impossible to escape from. You're basically in a dungeon, and the only thing you can do is run around. This level also acts like a tutorial on how you can leave a level, which is going to be very important throughout the entire game, and I'll explain why much later. The next level is called the Tower. This level consists of several rooms, which you can scale by going upwards. This tower will appear several times throughout the game, and it's going to be very important to the experience as a whole. You'll notice while you're on these tower levels that the actual stage is on the left side, and the right side there appears to be like a text box with some text in it. I believe this is a very direct reference to one of droqen's other games called The Tower. That game is actually pretty interesting. It's basically a top-down exploration game where you climb a tower. Each floor has an exit, and your goal is to reach as high as you possibly can. However, there's a catch. So every time you reach the exit, at the start of the game there's a 100% chance for you to go up a floor and a 0% chance for you to go down. And every time you go up, the chance for you to go up again goes down by 1%, and the chance for you to go down goes up by 1%. So when you reach floor 2, you have a 99% chance to go up and a 1% chance to go down. So naturally, what that means is that when you get halfway up the tower, there's a 50% chance for you to go up and a 50% chance to go down. I have never seen a game do something like that before. It has purely luck-based progression. I think the End of Gameplay shares a lot of similar DNA to the tower, which I think is why it's featured so prominently within this game. The next level is called Summer. This is another level that only has one room, where it's just you enjoying a nice summer day as a bunny where you can frolic around underneath the sun, enjoying yourself. Now, naturally, you would want to see what happens when you reach the sun, right? Well, when you do reach it, you destroy it, and you cause the world to plummet into nightfall, which causes you to escape a summer's day by killing the sun, and you become the sun killer. The next level is called Swamp. This is the first level where you don't play as the bunny you normally do. In this level, you play as a little yellow dude who has different jumping mechanics, where they're much shorter but they're capable of wall jumping, which causes falling into a pit to be way more punishing since it's a lot harder to jump out of it. If you read the text on this level, it seems to be sharing someone's experience while in the swamp level, stating that this swamp was not made for them and that they loathe being within it. At the end of this level, there actually is like a T-shaped pit that you can fall into, which is physically impossible to climb out of. The next level is called the Tower 10. This is the second tower level in the game, where you start on the 10th floor. As you progress higher, the jumps become increasingly more difficult, forcing you to use all three jump modes to their fullest extent to progress higher. You'll also notice as you go higher, the tower begins to deteriorate, both the level and the UI on the side. Eventually, you do reach a floor where there is no ground beneath where you spawn, instantly causing you to plunge into the abyss. The next level is called Open Field. In this level, you travel through a forest. The text in this level seems to talk about fields and trees, the beauty of chaos, trees becoming regular trees, and asking, who would want regular trees? The text also talks about trees fertilized by egos, becoming parks or gardens, essentially redesigning nature. And at the end of the level, there's a room that's structured like 1-1 from the original Super Mario Bros., asking, who would want gameplay? Now, I'm not entirely sure what they mean when they say regular trees and stuff like that, but I personally think it's like connecting regular trees with gameplay. Basically asking, who would want like basic-ass gameplay? Something that's cool about the very last room is that there's also a score counter on the top right-hand corner, and it seems to only increase when you move to the right. There also is a secret room you can access at the beginning of the level by going on a specific pit, which has some extra text for you to read. The next level is called Romantic. This is a level where you are accompanied by a bunny companion that mimics your movement and trails behind you. You continue to move downward until you reach a dark room, where your companion moves forward in front of you and navigates through the darkness. And if you follow them, you can actually reach the exit along with them. At the end, your bunny companion appears on the opposite side of the level, mimicking the inverse of your actions. The next level is called Crisis. This level is very House of Leaves-esque. As you progress through it, you start to pass through the same rooms that you've already been in, and as you do so, you'll notice some of the rooms change, like adding new text in the background or then deteriorating over time. Some of the rooms might also appear flipped or reversed. I did notice in one of the rooms, one of the texts actually kind of like bleeds over into like the next few rooms over to the right of it, which I think was pretty cool. Naturally, I have to draw comparisons to things like myhouse.wad, but there's another game that I played recently called The House of Asterion, which is made by the creator of Poorly Planned Comics, which is one hell of a rabbit hole, by the way. That game kind of has a similar premise where you travel through a house and some of the rooms you pass through are ones you've already been in, and sometimes you kind of get stuck in like an endless hallway. The next level is called The Tower, 20. This is the third tower level in the game. As you proceed upward, the tower continues to deteriorate, with the level structure requiring more intricate and precise jumps to progress. Well, at least for the first few rooms. After that, the tower seems to return to normal, with more text appearing on the side again. I'm assuming that whatever happened to the tower to cause it to deteriorate only happened towards the center. Like, maybe it's not even deteriorating. Maybe someone just like stood outside of the tower and had like a big cannon and they just like shot a hole like towards the center, but that didn't cause it to collapse, so it's still standing. But that's just a theory. You eventually reach the final floor of the tower, floor 30. I will note there is another level immediately afterwards called the Tower 30, where it just takes you back to the top of the tower, so there's not a whole lot going on there. The next level is called Gameplay Forever. This level is exactly what the title says, endless gameplay. You can progress upwards infinitely and collect berries to increase your score, and if you touch these little poison effect thingies, your score actually decreases. My personal headcanon is that this level is where the bunny character you play as is from originally, since the square that you see around them is the same color as the background in this level. The next level is called Machine Lover. In this level, you proceed downward into what seems to be a large machine-like structure. The text in this level mentions machines being created to show you love, giving you love without actually understanding what it is. Eventually, you are given the option to leave the machine or to progress down further into it. If you do continue, you end up in a small claustrophobic area, eventually causing you to become stuck within the machine. It is possible to go a little bit further down by glitching through walls, but I wasn't able to get to the very bottom. I personally believe that this level might be a representation with the rise of AI and how it affects how we consume pleasure, giving us what we want without understanding why we want it or how it made it in the first place, as well as how you can get stuck in the machine yourself. The next level is called Blood. In this level, you traverse through a red, bloody landscape where you can collect coins that actually play a distorted sound effect when you collect them. After this, there's two more levels called Longing and Thanks World, but they're both like one room levels that only have like some text in them. So I think I'm going to skip over those two. The next level is called Another Oubliette. This level is basically the same thing as the previous Oubliette, except it's slightly larger and there's actually text encouraging you to enjoy yourself while you're within it. The next level is called Pleasure Seeker, which is another short one where you traverse through a blue and green environment, with text expressing pleasure from the blues and the greens. The next level is called Gameplay Killing. This one is probably the most interesting in the game so far because it adds something that's been completely absent until this point, a failure state. Throughout this level, there's red spikes which can actually kill the bunny. The text in this level asks how they should kill the bunny, how they can kill the bunny with kindness, with fairness, with morality. How can you kill the bunny so that they know how to do better next time? Those are questions that game developers and designers ask themselves all the time. Sometimes it's not easy coming up with ways to make gameplay both challenging and fun so that it feels rewarding. The next level is Downstream. This is another vertical level where you climb up a waterfall. The text in this level seems to be asking where all the water is coming from, if it even has a source. On the very last room at the top, the bunny disappears, so you have no choice but to leave. The next level is called Contribution. Here you start off next to a structure which seems to be a tower, either in ruins or under construction. This is probably the same tower that's been shown in previous levels. You travel up into the sky and through the clouds, and then back down into the tower. The next level is called Massive Vessel. Here you travel through a large maze-like structure that sort of resembles a library. It is very easy for you to get lost here, which is definitely on purpose. This level plays around with the camera size a lot, especially in this one section where the camera snaps to a grid instead of doing a screen transition whenever you cross the screen border. This is actually a pretty neat game design trick used to artificially make the world your player is in to seem a lot larger than it is. Zooming in the camera and only showing a little bit of the player's surroundings limits their information and causes them to explore more. The text in this level talks about being inside of a massive vessel, and how these massive vessels contain countless artworks that realistically not everyone is going to experience. This is actually something I sort of struggle with. There's so much media out there these days that it's physically impossible to experience it all. We all have games. Unlimited games. But at the same time, no games. The next level is called Dream of Death. When you boot up this level, there's nothing. It's completely black. I wasn't able to figure out how to control anything here, so I assume it's just complete darkness and nothing else. Very interesting. The next one is called Dream of the Mountain. This is the first of a few levels where you play as an angel character instead of the bunny. Here you can travel up and down a mountain as it grows over time, eventually leading you into a cave. At the end of the level, you reach the cave, which is an endless vertical corridor, and with no way to go back up, you're once again stuck. The next level is called Dream of Only Flowers. In this level you continue as the angel person, traveling upwards on what looks to be green pillars. I will note that playing as the angel character is a bit more Faudian than playing as the bunny, as every time you bump into a wall you're basically stunned until you hit the ground, so it's sort of like playing Jump King in a way. At the top of the level you reach what seems to be large flowers, and if you continue upwards, you reach a magenta abyss and continue ascending until the level ends. Next is the Dream of Fire. This level is similar to gameplay Killing, where it has fire that can kill you, except I don't think there's actually a possible way to get past the fire. The text on the level shows someone's fear of being burned alive, which makes sense. So naturally, the seemingly correct way to win this level is by not throwing yourself at the fire and just running away from it. The next level is called Dream of Withering. Here, there is a giant laser beam that sweeps across the entire stage and causes you to get knocked down if you get hit by it. So, to progress, you fly upwards and loop through the sides of the stage to avoid getting hit. The text in this stage talks about killing the sun and calling you the sun killer, which most likely calls back to the previous level where you killed the sun. The next level is called Snow. Here, you return back as the bunny and travel through a snowy landscape. The bunny's jump height and gravity are a bit different in this level, so you can't jump as high as you normally can. The text in this level talks about snow and wanting to be buried beneath it. And later on in the level, there's some text that's completely jumbled, so you can't read it. Next is the level called Camp Games. This is one where you travel through a green landscape. And the coins are back. I know you guys love collecting coins. I'm not exactly sure what the text in this level is describing, but it did feel vaguely nostalgic. The next level is called the End of Gameplay. I think I'd consider this to be like the final boss of the game. As you start the level, there's an alternate path that you can take which goes upwards, eventually leading you to an empty sky that only contains the words longing. When you continue onwards, you eventually reach a green area that begins to rapidly collapse onto itself, and if you want to avoid getting consumed by the void, you have to continue downwards. Eventually, you do end up in a pit, and are swallowed by the void anyways. After this, there's another level called Digested, which just takes you back to this section. After that, there's another level called Down the Tower 30. This level is basically all of the tower levels stitched together, but in reverse. The bunny in this level is also green, causing them to have limited jumping abilities. The bunny also appeared as green in the Digested level, so this is most likely caused by whatever happened there. The next level is called the Final Oubliette. This is the third Oubliette level where you continue as the green bunny, and can stay as long as you'd like. You can exit this Oubliette level, and as soon as you do, the game closes. The next and final level of the game is called Permission to Leave. This is just one room and a wall of text, seemingly wrapping up everything you've experienced in the game. The text talks about being an architect of the tower, the sun being beyond the 30th floor, and a red earth. The text also mentions permission to leave, and how it never comes to you, You just choose. So, those are all the levels in the game. After all that, you might be asking yourself, okay, I sort of understand a little bit of that, but I don't really understand what kill gameplay is. Also, why are some of the levels literally unbeatable? How is that supposed to be fun? To be honest, I'm not certain that I can answer those questions. But, I can provide my own analysis based off of what's in this game, and with my previous experiences with droqen's other works. There's 3 topics that are prevalent in this game that I'd like to analyze to hopefully bring some more clarity. 1. What is kill gameplay? 2. What is an oubliette? And 3. What is permission to leave? I can't really answer what kill gameplay is directly, but I can provide you with a personal account of me killing gameplay that might explain it, which ties back to our old friend, Clash Royale. I actually uninstalled the game recently, and I don't think I'll ever go back to it. I started playing it when I was a teenager, and about a year and a half ago I picked it back up as a game I can play for a few minutes each day whenever I was bored. I was basically playing it almost every day, non-stop. Why? Because it wanted me to play it. Clash Royale, like most mobile games, are designed in a way so that it retains the player's attention for as long as possible. It becomes less of something you pick up when you're bored, it becomes more like a daily chore. Unless you spend money, the only way that you can progress in the game is by slowly collecting cards and magic items, and recently evolution shards, over the course of an increasingly long time. The longer you play the game, the harder it is to progress, thus the more you need to play it. I like to call this type of design gameplay laundering, based off of a post I saw a while back on Blue Sky. The idea is spreading out gameplay across different tasks, which artificially make the gameplay last a lot longer because you need to perform more tasks to progress. The simplest example I can give for this is giving the player crafting materials to make a sword instead of giving them the sword itself. Not like Minecraft where you can use the materials for other things, materials that are used specifically for one thing. In Clash Royale you need, 200 cards to go from level 13 to 14? And you can probably count on one hand how many epic cards you get daily. It'll probably take weeks, even months before you can upgrade a single card. There's another game that I've been playing called Nike, Goddess of Victory that is guilty of this as well. The main way you progress through the game is by making your Nike stronger, and the more they are upgraded, the more you need to grind to upgrade them further. It's not really pay to win like Clash Royale is, but it definitely has a lot more gameplay laundering. I still like playing it though, mostly for the sexy ladies. I love you, Rappy. So, how did I kill gameplay? Simple, by making a Asita. It doesn't have any of that kind of stuff. Asita doesn't ask you to return to it. You can pick it up for a few minutes, and then put it down when you're done. No daily rewards, no loot boxes. It's there when you want it, and it won't get lonely if you stop playing it. Granted, that does mean a lot of people who do play the game only play it a few times, and then never again. Which, personally, I'm totally fine with. I'm not trying to exploit you, so I don't care if you have better things to do than to play my games. That right there is how you kill gameplay. Or at least my way of doing it. Well, technically I didn't kill all of the gameplay. I just kinda chopped off the parts I didn't like. So I just kinda maimed gameplay. The End Of Gameplay is sort of like that as well. It's there if you want to play it, and once you're done, you never have to play it again. There's no achievements, there's no extra challenges for you to complete, you don't even have to play all of the levels if you want. The game is designed in a way to express the message it's trying to get across. Next, what is an oubliette? According to droqen himself, an oubliette is a, quote, hole you fall into and are forgotten in, and the only thing you can think to do when you're in the hole is to escape. But sometimes you can't escape, end quote. This image right here is an example of one, where the white part is the oubliette itself, and the blue sky is the part outside that you can see. They also pointed out that the gray part is what you can't see, but is also an important part of why you want to escape. Basically, from what I understand, the idea is that your goal is to escape to something without really knowing what you're escaping to, and once you do, the experience is over. An example that you might be familiar with that most likely counts as an oubliette is the Stanley Parable. In that game, there's a bunch of different routes that you can take, and your goal is to escape to something. Either for freedom, or shutting down the facility for good, or figuring out what the hell is going on in the overall narrative. You make choices based on a tiny little bit of information without the complete knowledge of what reaching your goal entails. Getting over it is also another great example, where your goal is to just climb upward without really knowing where the peak of whatever you're climbing is, and once you do reach it, the game is over. Some other examples of games that would count as oubliettes are Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Majora's Mask, and probably Minecraft. Another example of one is another one of droqen's other games called Yerke's Paradise. The premise is that you're a raccoon character inside of a large structure, and your goal is to escape it by using computer parts to build your own computer. At the moment, the game isn't available because of some copyright claim stuff, but if you're interested in learning more about oubliettes, I recommend checking out droqen's other works. Lastly, this game also talks about permission to leave, which personally is one of my favorite game design concepts that I've learned while being in Paradise. Basically, from what I understand, it's just giving the player permission to leave at any point. It goes beyond just adding something like a pause menu or a save point to your game. It's sort of like an overall vibe to an experience. The End of Gameplay utilizes permission to leave by actually encouraging you to leave a level instead of being forced to complete it, which the oubliette levels sort of function as a tutorial for. When I first played through this game, I actually didn't finish the level where you jump to avoid getting killed by spikes, and just skipped it, and when I replayed the game, I actually ended up beating that level. Both times I didn't really feel like I missed out on anything, which was nice. It's mostly about giving the player more agency in determining how long they want to play the game and being like, hey, you don't have to keep playing if you don't want to. An example of permission to leave that I've used for some of my games is Souls Link 1. Each mission is endless and has a quota that you need to surpass in order to mark that level as complete. However, once you reach the quota, you don't have to stop. You can just keep going and leave whenever you feel like it. Something I didn't like about Vampire Survivors is that the levels are capped out at 30 minutes. So even though the missions in Souls Link are a lot shorter than that, I wanted to allow the player to play a mission for as long as they'd like. I don't really think that games that allow you to save regardless of where you are in the game necessarily counts as permission to leave. That's more like a physical interpretation of it. I started playing through Ghost of Tsushima recently, and even though the game autosaves, it doesn't really encourage you to stop playing while you're in the middle of a side quest or whatever. You stop playing once you're finished with it. It's more of like a mental thing, you know? Games like Balatro are probably a better example of permission to leave. You can just stop in the middle of a run and pick it back up later if you feel like it. Like, you're not really pressured into beating the next boss blind before closing the game. I hope that this kind of clears up some of the terminology that's used in this game and why this game is structured the way it is. I imagine a lot of folks will chalk it up as some artsy-fartsy game dev lingo, which is totally fine. I think they're pretty interesting concepts and wanted to talk about them in case there's other indie devs or game design enthusiasts watching who are interested. Now the important question. Would I recommend this game? Short answer, I don't want to say it depends, but I really think that this game will only resonate that much with a specific group of people. I happen to be one of those people, so for me, I really enjoy this. I think if you're an indie dev or you really like retro platformers, then I'd recommend checking it out. Although, even with that, it is a bit of a tough sell. The game is $20, which, if I'm going to be completely honest, is kind of a lot of money for the overall experience. The game is pretty short, you can beat it in like an hour or so. There are two wolves inside of me. One is an indie dev who wants shorter games with worse graphics made by people who are paid more to work less. I am all for indie devs pricing their games at what they think it's worth instead of having to compete with other, better games. The other wolf inside me, however, is also a consumer who can't really afford to spend $20 on a game that only lasts a few hours. I am really glad that I played this for free, otherwise I probably would have been a little upset. In comparison, my most expensive game is Project Malice, which is $10. That game has like a shitload of content in it, at least several hours worth. And you can buy 2 copies of that for 1 copy of this. So, you know, just saying. If I price this, I would probably put it at like, maybe like $5 max. If the price decreases or it goes on sale, or you have infinite money, then yes, I absolutely think you should play this game, especially if you're a fellow indie dev. It's unique, and it's a different breed of indie game that most people aren't familiar with. This is one of those games that almost nobody is going to experience. There are like countless indie games out there these days, especially with all the AI slop that's being pumped out on Steam, so finding good indie games has become more difficult than ever. If you're sitting there wondering, man, why isn't there a game where you play as X doing Y? Or, man, why aren't there more games like Z? There are. There's probably several, you just don't know they exist. It's hard for indie devs to find an audience because most people don't go out of their way to look for games. They only play whatever's recommended to them by YouTubers or whatever they stumble across on their Twitter timeline. For every quirky indie game that blows out of nowhere, dozens go completely unnoticed. The End of Gameplay is one of those unnoticed games, and I wanted to shine a spotlight on it since I actually kind of took something away from it and think the ideas that it shares are kind of interesting. I want to encourage people who have the time to actually search through new indie games that need attention instead of playing the same popular indie game for the 50th time in a row. Play through that one game that's been collecting dust in your Steam library for a few years. Or go on itch and search whatever games you like, since there's countless free games there. Unless you're looking for porn games, since those are just gone now. Thanks a lot, random women from Australia. Or you can play that one random game you got for free on the Epic Games Store or the Humble Bundle. Or you could try out that one indie game you saw on a random Discord somewhere that you saw the developer promoting. Trust me, good indie games are everywhere, and if you look hard enough, you'll find something that's made just for you. I think the End of Gameplay is really good at formulating this fake collection of thoughts and feelings about video games. Not just AAA games or indies, but games as a whole. It's difficult to make a game with a meta commentary about video games that doesn't sound like a cringy Undertale fan game. And the only people who can really pull it off are people who have a lot of experience in the field. This game also feels very personal, which I think is an important trait for an indie game to have. I personally find it charming when you can tell that a game is made by either one person or a small group of people. It feels very humble. I wouldn't really call the End of Gameplay an anti-game, but it does have a lot of anti-game design elements to it. Concepts you wouldn't expect from a regular game. It doesn't have a branching storyline, no secret lore or Easter eggs, and no achievements or bonus challenges. Just you, a bunny, a bunch of words, and a vague sense of curiosity. And sometimes, maybe that's all we need. I think that's all I have to say about the End of Gameplay. Honestly, I still don't know what kill gameplay means, but I think I understand it a little bit more now. And maybe you learned something along with me. In case you can't tell, I like yapping about indie games and game design, so if you'd like to hear more about that kind of stuff, feel free to let me know in the comments. I do have some other ideas for games I'd like to talk about at some point, like the Hades series. I played those games a while back and enjoyed the second one a lot more than the first one. I haven't played the third one that came out recently, but I've heard it's kinda eh. I also might do a tier list video of my own games at some point. I think that would be fun. Feel free to pound that subscribe button and follow my socials for more updates on my stuff. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Toodles!
Oh boy, I'm super excited to experience fun and exciting gameplay, I said, booting up a new indie game I found on Steam. Little did I know that it was actually the End of Gameplay.